Hello, hello.
Hey, it's starting to sound like we got Abraham here.
That's
Hello,
right. How's it
Abraham.
going?
Good, and you? Good.
Doing great.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for making it here. We've got, let's see. I just want to make sure that I've got this recording going here. Yep, we're ticking away with that. That's good news. And I have got my dog Elwood here in the background. See him barely because he's so dark you can barely see him there on the couch. And I've got this little AC unit over here on the wall. I don't know if you can see that in the window. Are you able to?
I
Oh,
see them all.
you can see it. Okay. Okay. Yeah. And
As
114,
your dog is chilling down there.
yeah. And 114 degrees in Mexico today for Fernando. Imagine that.
Oh
That
wow, darn.
that is hot. Yeah. Yeah. That's very hot. And Sergio's in Santa Maria. So it's got to be about what it is here at our house, which is probably about, hitting 90, something like that. So we are at, August 5th on a Sunday around 11 o'clock in the morning. And Abraham, I want to thank you very much for making it to the meeting, National Home Buyers Investors Group. A lot of people think that I do these meetings because I want to inspire you and motivate you and other people and get you going. And it's true, I do. But also, you showing up helps inspire me because I have to be ready for you and have to kind of get some information going and stay on this real estate path. And so I'm thanking you for helping me because you actually motivate me. This is what, kind of coaching will do. It, you're coaching people, but they're helping you at the same time. They're helping people get their stuff going and their energy going and their, information that they want to convey. So thank you very much for being here.
Sounds good, Dan.
All
Same to
right.
you.
All right, good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the video just because that'll save us a little bandwidth. I'm on DSL in the mountain, and that's all we can get until we get low-level satellite. So I'm going to turn off the video for me, and then I'm going to turn on the full screen sharing, and then you tell me if you're able to see that full screen sharing when it comes on here. And let's see here. And there we go. And are you able to see the screen right now where it shows NH Big and the trading screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so let's go back and see what happened here. Full screen, share screen, full
I want to see
screen. Oh, I'm seeing
your
full screen.
image.
Gotcha, gotcha. I need to share the screen. There we go. And we're gonna, yeah, we'll stay with that. And then I'll come out of here and I'll come over here and tell me now, can you see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, and we just got word from, let's see, we got word from Randy that he is stuck in freeway traffic due to an accident, happened to, can't, can't make the meeting. That sounds dangerous. Well, be safe. Let me see, I'm gonna hide this, and I just say be safe. Be safe.
Oh wow.
Okay,
And
so
also the screen just got shorter than last time.
shorter than last time, huh? That's interesting. Let me come back over here.
Yeah.
And let me just see full screen, stop sharing, exit full screen. Now tell me if that's, hang on here just a minute. Tell me if that's bigger or smaller. Now the other thing is in the left-hand side you have a window for doing text messaging. And when you do text messaging, it shows the text messaging, but it'll make that window smaller. So if you have your text messaging open on the left-hand side, then you want to hide that, and that should open up the screen a little bit bigger for you. So that might be a problem for you too. Okay,
Hmm.
and and not quite sure, what you're seeing on your side there. Stop your screen sharing. We're going to go ahead and leave that screen sharing. But Are you able to read any of the information that I've got on here that says NH Big Training 30 days and see any of that information?
Yeah. Looks at
Okay,
the projected share screen is like around like 60% of the
okay,
size of a full screen.
okay, okay. So that might be all we get,
But
but
the
when you,
last time was like 80.
yeah, and when we go back and you look at the videos, you'll see a full screen on the video. So that might be just part of the Google Hangouts thing. And there may be something in Google Hangouts to give you a full screen, not sure. But in any case, it will look better on the video that I am recording because if we come back down here, you can see I am recording. And are you able to see the background screen that I've got right now with the mountains?
Alaska?
Yep, I actually stood right there on the dirt over here in the left-hand corner at the bottom, took a picture back up here of the glaciers and beautiful place in Alaska where we were a week and a half away from town here. And I'll tell you, with this kind of weather, it sure makes me feel like going back to Alaska. But I can say this: when we were in Anchorage, Alaska, it was 85 degrees. So, that's a lot warmer than most people would think someplace like
Hmm.
Anchorage, Alaska would be. Although it was cooler in other places that we went to in Alaska. So it was just a great place, beautiful to be there, wonderful. So let's do
That's
the,
awesome.
yeah, it was really nice getaway. So let's come back over here to what we're going to be covering today. And you see that up on the screen, to-do list, NH Big Training. You able to see that okay? Just tell me.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Okay. So on the NH Big Training, that is basically this page here, and it shows people all the stuff that we offer here at NH Big Inc., which stands for National Home Buyers Investors Group. So all this information and all this is, some of it's free training, some of it does cost. The REI Pro that we've been using will be free for some people in certain instances, but you know, to get onto the training meetings like we're on now, you just click the link right here, like you did, you're on, and then down below, of course, are the videos that we've done. And for the people that end up having to pay, we've actually got a paid page that shows you what the cost of that is, basically $800 a year, but that includes everything on the free page plus REI Pro. And if you decide you don't need me, you don't need Dan, you don't need any of the services I have to offer, then you can go direct to REI Pro. Our discount price is about 1188 per year and 13 per year if you just go to REI Pro direct. So that kind of gives you an idea of the difference in pricing there and some of the options that people have. If you were to scroll down that page farther, you'd see I'd have other rates for, $50 an hour and on up if you just want, a little bit of time and not a year's worth of training. So that gives people an idea what's going on there. And for our associates, let's go take a quick look at the associate page just so we can kind of cover that. We have got this page that we're building for associates and real estate agents and Um, basically, you can get your information in there and the properties that you're listing. You see you're in there, Abraham, and eventually people will click on, view my properties, and they'll look at that, and they'll actually be properties that you have located and that we're working on getting sold. And you can put information in there about who you are and what you're doing. Um, so that's kind of a good advertising page for you to do eventually. So you let me know if you have tried to get in there and you couldn't, let me know and I'll help you get in there. Um, at this point, you won't have any properties put in there, but you can at least put more information about yourself in there. Have you tried getting in there at all?
I haven't yet. Just kind of
Okay.
figuring out what kind of bio thing I should write.
Yeah.
I think I have a
Okay.
good idea just now.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can do that. And just for an example, here's mine, and it shows a little bit here, and then it gets into as much as you want to put in there, and links and phone numbers and all that kind of stuff. And you've got social media links so you can drive them back to your Twitter account, your Facebook, and all that kind of stuff. So, it's pretty handy to start building your client base of people that want to work with you and do different things. So it's a good thing, and that's what we're offering here for people like yourself. So let's head back over here. REI Pro, which is by Chris Goff, that we're going to be talking about here today, is all part of this. And to be a member of our team and to get REI Pro for free, which you do right now, I've reduced that down to one lead per week. And right now, we're just starting off, and we've had people do a lot more than one per week in the beginning. You know, when you first start this kind of stuff, if nothing seems like it's happening, it's really easy to give up quick. And so, that's to be expected. But as people can do at least one lead per week to me, basically you just find somebody, and you might want to turn off your sound there because we've got some feedback there in the background there, Abraham, and then just click it back on when you want to talk. One lead per week
Okay.
of people that say, yes, I'm interested, and all you have to do is pass that to me. I'll continue on with all this information that we have below and make this happen. And then if I can close on something, I start giving you cash for that one lead. Eventually, you're going to be doing more than just bringing in a lead. You're going to be doing some of the stuff that we're showing today. But today, really isn't stuff that I want you guys to go out and do now, because really what you need to do now is just be able to bring somebody in somewhere, one lead per week. Eventually you'll get to making these offers yourself, but right now we want to focus on, well, how do we even get one lead per week? How do we do that? Well, we've talked about that a little bit in the past, and we'll talk about it some more, but today I just wanted to show you this multiple lease offer options, and why this is another important way of doing this business. So for those that don't do one lead per week, as I get more people on this and they're working with me and they're actually doing one lead or more per week, if there are people on there that just aren't doing anything, not even a lead per month, we'll drop them back to Podio. They won't have access to REI Pro, but I can still work with them on Podio. And if they, want to do one lead per month or one lead every couple of months, that's fine. It's all still free for them. But if they want to work their way back into REI Pro, which is going to give you a lot more information, a lot more access to things, a lot more video training and everything that Chris has to offer, that's really a good place to be. Okay, so that's kind of what we're doing with REI Pro and Podio, and how all that's going to work. Now, so what we've got today is REI Pro is a product produced by Chris Goff. Okay, and he actually has a website, of course, many websites, and he's got a YouTube channel and probably many YouTube channels. And let's just go take a quick look at his video YouTube channel so you get an idea. This is.
How's everybody doing? My name's Chris Goff. I started real estate in.
Okay, so that's Chris Goff. That's what he looks like, and this is his YouTube page. And although there's a lot of videos in REI Pro, probably more in REI Pro than there are on his YouTube site. It's hard to say. A lot of what's in REI Pro training-wise, as far as videos, are also right here on his YouTube channel for free. So, whenever you want to, if you're not on REI Pro and you want to at least get access to some of his training videos, this is where you would find them. And he's got a lot of good information here. So I just want people to understand who this guy is. The reason that I'm zeroing in on him is because he's big on lease options. He's big on a lot of other things too. He's done it all. He mostly enjoys working on single family homes, although his programs will work for commercial, land, all kinds of things. He'll be the first to say that. He himself personally just likes working with single family homes, which I do too. So we have common interest, and he certainly is like way more successful at what he's doing than I am. He's basically, for me, my mentor. He doesn't know it, but he's my mentor. Okay. And you can work with a mentor one-on-one and be able to talk with them. And some are just out there so far you'll probably never get a chance to talk to them. But their information is so good they can still be your mentor through the information that they provide. And so as we look down here, REI Pro, one of the videos that he's put out recently, and it just came out here in the last couple of months, is how to make multiple lease option offers. Again, anytime you start with a lease option, it can always go to something else. It can go to subject to, it could be, owner finance, which is part of a lease option. It could be a fix and flip. It could be anything. Lease option is just a way to start. And if it turns out they say, no, I don't want to do that at all, there may be something else they want to do that we can work with, or their place might be such a mess, it couldn't be a lease option even if they wanted it to be. They would have to be sold to an investor, and it would have to be a fix and flip because no lender is ever going to loan on it. So that's kind of the different ways of doing some of this business. As far as this video is concerned, we're going to go through and look at some details about this video. I'm not going to play his video, but I did cut lots of screenshots from it, and we're going to talk about that briefly as we go through it. And basically, I'm going to leave it to the associates and everybody else who wants to, dig into this deeper to get back to the video and watch it in detail. It's about maybe a half hour, 45-minute video, something like that. And the link is here, but you can find it by, going back to his YouTube site and, doing a search on multiple lease option offers, because it is well worth looking at. Okay. And we're also going to talk about, at this point, like I mentioned, I just want you guys to focus on passing leads to me, not really trying to do these multiple offers with people because you guys just aren't there yet. And I don't want you to go crazy, and I don't want them to go crazy with you guys trying to deal with this when you might not have the experience or feel comfortable. So let's just stick with passing the leads to me. I'll do this stuff and much, much more because, getting them to say yes is one thing. Making it all work in closing, that's a whole nother thing. Now, how much money can you make on doing these lease options and these multiple offers? Well, we're going to show you at the very end of this just how that works. Hang on here just a minute, and I'm going to close the door here. Okay, just want to cut out a little bit of noise there in the background. And so, on the lease options, here is his video. Discover multiple ways to secure lease option offers, Chris Goff. And what he's covering in this video, how to determine, seller motivation, creating offers to sellers, determine the number of ways for determining the numbers for the new buyers. So basically, you're going to be working with a seller, structuring that, and then working with a buyer and structuring those numbers and trying to come up with something that's going to work for both. And somewhere in between that, you're going to make some money for doing that. Okay, what he's not going to cover, the entire lease option strategy is not covered in this video because it is more lengthy. But you can see he does have Education Center through REI Pro that gets into it in great detail, and also his YouTube channel. And then he does live stuff as well. So that's all available. Most importantly, learn how to determine seller motivation. Okay, so the reason that's most important is because if you don't get the motivation, you don't see that somebody really wants to even do something, well, we need to just move on. Maybe get back to them in 30 days, maybe not get back to them at all. But it's real important to try and figure out what that motivation is, what their situation is, the time frame, what they want versus what they need. And as you listen to the video, he gets into all that stuff in more detail. Tips on speaking to the owner, the price, what's their down payment amount, monthly amount, length of time, quality of buyer. These are some of the motivation factors and things that we have to figure out, what's going to work with them. And when you offer somebody just one thing and it's kind of like, this is all I'm offering, take it or leave it, chances are they're going to leave it more times than they would if you said, well, here's just one offer, but I've got 3 or 4 more. When you give people 3 or 4, 5 offers, they kind of quit thinking about yes or no and start thinking about, well, which one would I pick? So having them start thinking about which one they would pick is way better than yes or no, because it increases your odds that they're going to say yes to something. Anytime that I'm going through this, if you've got a question there, Abraham, just stop me. Be happy to answer it. We'll go over it. The actual property, he went out, scouted out using REI Pro, found this property, and it's a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And there's the price. Now you notice the price is $226. That's basically a $200,000 home. Okay, loan amount's 180, and the person who owns it lives out of state. So we're going to keep that price in mind because we're going to talk about that price at the very end of this in relation to how much you can make in that market and how much you might be able to make in the market in Santa Barbara. Okay. So he found the deal. He used REI Pro software. He looked for an absentee owner, single family home. He looked for a price between 2 and 300,000. And you want to kind of look for those price ranges if you're in a market where that's the average price range for a nice home in a nice neighborhood. We don't want to look for things that are beat up. And, we don't want to look for the most expensive house in the area because it would reduce the amount of things that we can find. He did look for the absentee flag through REI Pro to show that they were out of state only. And that's an option you can use, yes or no. Either way, it's going to work better if they probably are out of state because it's farther away and harder for them to deal with. Ownership, removed company owned. In other words, he did not want to work with people who had LLCs or S corps. He wants to work directly with the home owner, which I do too. Now here's something I didn't really know, and he does because he's got way more experience than I do, and that is when you're looking at these homes in these areas, you really want to look for a loan to value, LTV, of 10 to 30%. And that is very interesting because, if you found somebody who had their house all paid off and it was, no mortgage, nothing, they might be less motivated to do a lease to own because they have more options given that they don't have a mortgage payment, period. But if they have a mortgage payment and you look for somebody where, let's say it was a $100,000 home, just so you can kind of get the numbers here, and they owed on a loan 90,000, that would be your 10%. If they owed 70,000 on a $100,000 property, that would be 30%. The reason he's looking for those numbers is he's looking for people who are kind of maxed out on their loan. They don't have very far to go either way. They're having a hard time getting a real estate agent to work with them because there's not enough equity in there to maybe even find a buyer. If they tried to sell it themselves, they'd have a hard time. So they're really feeling kind of cash strapped and ball and chain with that property, and they don't know how to get rid of it. They don't know what to do. It's not upside down necessarily. It's just that doesn't have a whole lot of equity. So, that really is a good place to be. Let me get back up here. I think I kind of jumped through a few things there. That's a good place to be number-wise because it's in an area price-wise where people are going to be more likely to say yes. I didn't know that until I looked at this video. So that 10 to 30% is something that you can put in REI Pro and say, okay, I want that figure. I want those homes in this price range. So, you're going to be more likely to succeed if you find people in that cash category. That is an important thing. So
Also, what does LTV stand for? Just wondering.
that stands for loan to value. So meaning,
Oh,
let's say the value of the house was $100,000, and if it was 10%, that would mean that they had a loan for 90,000 and they only had 10,000 of equity. Or if they had a $70,000 loan, they would have 30,000 of equity. So he's looking for LTVs of 10 to 30%. So if you think of it on 100,000, you just know that's kind of how that looks. And then it doesn't matter if it's 200 or 500, you can still use that percentage factor when you're looking for homes in certain areas to come up with that, because the people that are in that loan to value area are going to be the ones who will most likely say yes on this lease to own. That's an important factor that I did not know. I would have jumped in there and said, oh, it doesn't matter if they're paid for free and clear or whatever. It does matter. And I got his point loud and clear when he said it. And I went, oh, that's very interesting. That really helps us not waste a whole lot of time with people that might be, have the house free and clear. Now, having a house free and clear is good because you can have those people owner finance in some cases. So, it's not like we don't want to deal with those people, but that would be a different kind of deal. It might not be a lease to own. They might want to sell it with owner financing because they own it free and clear, and that's okay. It's just another deal. Again, this is a place to start, and there's so many things, in real estate to look for and to do. If you want to do this lease to own, this is one way of doing it. And the reason it's so nice is because there's no money out of our pocket. The person who has it free and clear may just say, no, I want somebody to buy it and I'll owner finance them. You could still sell that contract. You could still wholesale it and make money, and it'd be a great deal. It just wouldn't be a lease to own. It'd be owner finance, which is fine. So that's why here, if you're doing the lease to own, that 10 to 30% LVT is, or LTV is so important. I really was happy to see that. It's always great when you think you know a lot and you see something, you go, oh, wow, that does make a big difference. How to determine the offer. So here we're going to talk a little bit about that. He came up with, well, he ran comparables, and if the person was selling for, say, 220, and the comparables suggest that you might be able to get 232, then he will say, okay, so I know the house could possibly sell for 232,000. Rental comps, it might rent for 1,400. He wants to make sure the condition of the property is good, because you don't want some property that's a big mess, because you want to be able to get people in there as easy as possible. And the owners, you need to know the owner's situation and motivation. So this is really important, and to determine what kind of offers you're going to make. So the first offer he made on this property was based on the highest sell price. And what he said in the video is that, he's got about 4 offers on this property that are made up different ways for different reasons, but people usually take offer number 1 because they always want the higher sale price. And the higher sale price would be 226. So he figures more than likely the person is going to want to go for that. And if they pick the higher sales price and he wants to give them a lower down payment so that he can make more money on this down payment area. And then, if he knew he can get $1,400 a month for rent, if he wants to hang on to it and collect rent throughout the year or 2 years, he would get 14 for rent. He would give the owner 12 and he would keep 2 in his pocket. So that's kind of what his plan is there. Offer number 2 is now based on a higher down payment. Well, here he's going to give a higher down payment to the owner, which means he's not going to make as much on the down payment from the seller, but he might make more money on the sales price, but he'd have to wait till the price of the home sold in 3 years. I'm going to tell you, basically, he's going to show you 3 ways to make money on these things, and why I usually lean toward just making money one way on the exchange, right up front, and not try to make money on the rent, not try to make money on the sales price a year or 2 or 3 years later. I just want to get in and out for a number of different reasons, and we'll talk about that as we get there. Offer number 3, this is based on monthly payment. Now he's going to give the owner the maximum rent, $1,400 a month. Sales price is a little bit more, down payment is back down lower, and he's going to give a 2-year term, not a 3-year term, okay? Because here, in all of his talking of this, he's planning on hanging on to this lease all the way through until it sells, and he'll have somebody in there and they have the option to buy it, but he still wants to be in the middle all the way through. Personally, I don't. He does. That's okay. Everybody does what they can do this however they want. It's totally up to you what you want to do. Offer number 4 is based on a shorter term, 1 year instead of 2 years or 3 years. Sales price is, down a little bit. Payment is down. Monthly payments are down. Okay. Actually, the sales price is up a little bit comparatively speaking to, I guess, some other ones there. But basically, this is a 1-year term, so he's going to get in and out in 1 year. So here's his 3 different offers. You see sales price on offer number 1, 226. That's the highest, and that's the one people pick the most because they want that high sales price. Well, that's why he purposely makes the down payment low, is if he's not going to make money off the sales price because he offered so much, then he wants to make as much as he can on that down payment. The down payment is what you get immediately without having to wait 1 year, 2 years, or whatever. You get that immediately. At that point, you could just cash out, let that, buyer take that thing over and work directly with the owner and just say, hey, you guys, I wish you the best. Hope it all works out and you're out of the deal. If you want to be. Again, he's not. He's staying in there for some rent and he's staying in there to get some money at the end when it sells, and you'll see that. Okay. Now we come to that's a seller chose offer number 1. Okay. So how does he structure? How to structure numbers for the buyer? So now that he knows what his seller wants, he can now go to the buyer and say, okay, this is what we have to offer you. The buyer might counter that. You might have to go back and adjust things a little bit. The main thing is you want something that both the buyer and seller are going to agree to. But the seller is the most important, because if you can't get the seller to agree to their number 1 pick out of the 4, then again, you need to just say, forget it, see you in 30 days, or never see again, whatever, and move on down the road to another deal. Okay. So now he's going to structure the buyer and determine the sales price, down payment, monthly payments, and term. Okay. So he set his price for the buyer higher on everything than the seller, because this is where he's making his money. He's going to make the sales price higher. He's going to make the down payment higher. I notice it's $8,000. The other down payment to the seller was $6,000, so he's going to take the difference immediately when he does this transaction for $6,000. Monthly payment $1,400, 1-year term. Okay, so here's the deal. There's for the seller. There's for the buyer. And if you subtract 226 from 235, there's the profit when it sells. If you subtract the down payment to the seller from the down payment to the buyer, there's the difference, $6,000. That's what he's going to put in his pocket the moment they both sign the contract. And the rent, $1,200, goes to the seller. $1,400 is what the buyer is paying. So he's going to stick $200 in his pocket every month, make some more money. He gives the seller 2 years, and the seller agrees to it. He gives the buyer 1 year, and the buyer, and the reason he does that is because if the buyer doesn't do it in 1 year, at least he has another year to keep doing this with another person if he needs to. So that gives him a little bit more time to make this deal work. And during that time, his buyer is working with his mortgage person to get qualified and go through all the details of what stopped them from just doing this right up front and why they had to do a lease to own in the first place. Okay. So here's his profit centers on that particular deal for offer number 1. He gets $6,000 immediately when they close the contract from the seller, because he's only going to give $2,000. Excuse me, from the buyer, he's only going to give $2,000 to the seller. He's going to keep the difference of that $6,000 because he's going to get $8,000 from the buyer. Now, when the buyer gives $8,000 and says, well, I put 8,000 down, I thought I was going to, pay down the price of the house by 8,000. The answer is no. Listen, buyer, you're going to pay me 6,000 just for getting you this deal, because if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't even got this. I worked long and hard to try and structure this thing so somebody would get an opportunity here. You're getting an opportunity. If you're not willing to take it, there's plenty of other people that will. So that's how he gets his $6,000 right up front. Now, he wants to get 200 a month times 1 year, 12, that's 2,400. If it's 2 years, 4,800. I really don't like being in the middle of the rent thing and trying to wait for money at the very end of the deal, especially if you take a look at how much money is going to be there at the end of the deal. Um, Not that much. We'll take a look at the profit center. He's going to get $6,000 right up front the moment it happens. He'll get 2,400 in 12 months. So it's going to take him a whole year to make another 2,400, and it's going to take him another year or 2 years to make that 3,000. So if you were to go through all that and you did it in 1 year, you'd make $11,000, and you'd think, well, gee, Dan, that sounds like it's worth waiting, to do that other stuff. Well, a lot can happen during that other year or two. Personally, I don't want to deal with it. I just want to jump into another deal, get the most I possibly can, which is the 6,000, and then get out of it. If you guys help me find a deal, I would give you 1,000 minimum and then a percentage of that 6,000. Okay, that's how you guys make your money, and that's kind of how this would go. When you look at this, you think, well, gee, Dan, $6,000 for a $200,000 property doesn't seem like you're making very much. Well, first of all, you got to remember that I didn't have to put a penny out of my pocket, and neither did you. None of us did. So making $6,000 off of nothing is a pretty good return on investment. The investment is our time, not our money. Okay? But now here's the real kicker on this whole thing. If you work in areas like Chris is talking about for these $200,000, $300,000 properties because you live in that area or whatever reason you're working in that area, that's fine. Expect this is what you're going to make on each and every deal. But we don't live there, and we don't have to work there, and we can work remotely just as well as he can, and he knows it. He's no dummy. And I'm sure he's doing other things besides these $200,000 properties. That $11,000 profit can change real quick because, we're getting there. His final thoughts: find a situation, not a house. Create multiple offers. Very, very important. Think about your exit strategy before you make the offer. Mine is just get out real quick. I don't want the middle. I don't want the end. And then, he's got his events. But here's the kicker that I have to say for all of us that are living on the West Coast, and that is in the higher price home areas, California, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Florida, any place where the homes are much, much higher value, and that is this. Imagine you make 6,000, excuse me, you make 6,000. I think I need a little water here. Okay, you make $6,000 on that down payment, that exact same deal. Okay. Well, that's profit on basically a $200,000 home. We live in Santa Barbara where the average home, which is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, just as dumpy as any other home anyplace else. Of course, you want something that's nice. But just think about it. If it's livable and it's decent, most of the homes in Santa Barbara are $1 million. That's 5 times the price of a $200,000 home. Therefore, instead of 6,000, you'd have 5 times the 6,000, which is 30,000 profit. Abraham, does that sound like a deal in Santa Barbara? Do the exact same thing that he did with that property, just change the numbers for a house in the higher price range, which are closer to $1 million. We can find those all day long up and down the coast from California, Oregon, Washington, different places. We're looking at a $30,000 profit. So if I gave you 1,000 for bringing a deal like that to me, plus a percentage of that, and I'd have to go back and look at what our percentage was. Let's go back and look at what our percentage was. So let's go back to free training. Are you still there with me, Abraham?
Yeah, that sounds an awesome profit.
Does that sound like it? Okay, so look at 10%. What's 10% of 30,000? So you
$3,000.
get 3 plus 1, so now you're talking about $4,000 for bringing that property to me if I can close on it. Does that sound like a deal?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, yeah. So that makes you understand why it's important that we work on the higher price homes. I mean, even if we were working with $500,000 homes, which there's even more of all up throughout California, San Bernardino, Riverside, wherever, and we even made half of that. Instead of making, 4,000, let's say you made 2,000 and you were able to do that maybe once or twice a month. Well, if you made two houses, we were able to do two in a month, that's still 4,000 a month. Would 4,000 a month every month change your lifestyle?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it changed mine too, real fast. So that is really, the sweet spot of what we have and the opportunity we have. You don't have to live in Santa Barbara to do this because obviously, if we get homes in places outside of Santa Barbara, up and down the coast, we can still do this remotely. We have to have some people on the ground in different places for inspection and whatnot, and that's all up to me. All this, everything behind the scenes, which takes a lot of work, just like all these rental properties that have drugged my time down like crazy, and why I'm switching all my rental properties over from lease or from rentals to lease to own. And people go, oh well, I want to keep my rentals. I don't want to sell them. Hello, a lot of these lease to owns never sell, and they just drag on for years. And who cares as long as the people living in them are doing, paying for the repairs. That's okay. That's why mortgage companies give mortgages. They want people in them for 30 years so they'll pay three times the price. If $1 million home, if the average home is $1 million in Santa Barbara and it took you 30 years to pay off that mortgage, and every mortgage that anybody makes, if they go 30 years, ends up paying three times the price of the mortgage, how much would that $1 million house cost in 30 years? $3 million, right?
Yep.
That's what you're really paying for it, is 3 million. Well, if you had it for 30 years, I guarantee you it wouldn't be worth $1 million in 30 years. It'd probably be worth 20 million. Who knows how crazy things will get. When you start talking about prices 30 years down the road, everybody goes, "Oh, you're crazy. That'll never happen." I took a real estate class at Santa Barbara City College when I first got into town in 1973, and the realtor or the instructor stood up there and said, "Hey, look, the average price of homes in Santa Barbara right now, three-bedroom, two-bath homes in 1973, is $30,000." And everybody's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And he said, in 10 years it's going to be 100,000 or whatever. And everybody's like, "No, that's impossible. That'll never happen." It's gone way beyond that. So, you know, whatever, 30 years, who cares? What we care about is what can we do right now, and what can you continue to do that will, help you out as time moves on. And two things. One is this real estate stuff, doing the wholesaling, buying properties, whatever. The other is compounding interest in something like what the guys were talking about at our last meeting, which was the insurance um, packages that they have to offer that will compound, 4 and 5% as time goes on, and turn, a little bit of money into a lot of money from compound interest, and that you can borrow back from it and it's liquid anytime you want. So the combination of that kind of stuff, when you start looking down the road at 30 years, all that makes a huge difference in your life and what you can do and what you can create for generations and help, your kids learn and the people around you learn. So this is some pretty exciting stuff from that standpoint. And as you can see, there's some real opportunity here that should motivate you and me, Abraham. And that's why I keep coming back and saying, "Hey, Abraham, you're going to be on the next call. Hey, Fernando, you're going to make it." I'm trying to get anybody I can to get back on the next call, not just to motivate them, but to force me to be motivated, because at my age, at 68, and I've got rentals and I've got blah 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 blah, the ocean view and living in Santa Barbara, it's real easy for me to sit back and go, It's a lot of work. Do I really need to? I could just, sit out in the front yard, enjoy the view, or go back to Alaska. Sure, I can do all that, but life to be exciting and enjoyable is, kind of going for your dreams and doing things. And it's just like exercising. If I was to stop at 68 and say, well, I'm not going to ever exercise again because I'm retired, I'd probably die of a heart attack in, a couple of years, who knows. Well, it's kind of the same way on the business and everything else. It's not that I want to go work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, but it's about balancing your life and balancing your lifestyle. And part of that is exercise, part of that is nutrition, part of that is work, because work activates the mind, exercise activates the mind, keeps you going, keeps you healthy. So, again, this is why I do what I do. It's not just for you, Abraham, it's for me too. You are motivating me because you're there. And I really do appreciate that. And I want you to kind of get that it makes a difference in my life too. Okay?
That
So,
sounds awesome, Dan.
cool. Very cool. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop the screen sharing and I'm going to go back over here to the camera thing and see if we can get back in on the video and just see if this is going to do what I'm hoping it will do. Let's see. We did screen sharing off. Okay. And let me try this one more time. Off, back on. And I don't see, well, we're still recording. That's still working. Not quite sure why my video is not coming back in. I got you. Okay, got me. Got the video. Well, my camera, for some reason, doesn't seem like it's going back on. Doesn't really matter. I just kind of wanted to wave you goodbye and thank you very much for being here. Let me get rid of this message thing here, see if we get that out of the way. And you are still there, right, Abraham?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Okay, great. Well, so do you have any questions for me as we kind of wrap this training session up?
So what do we do when I find a fixer-upper in REI Pro?
Well, if it's a fixer
So
upper, it's not that we're going to ignore it because on a fixer upper, somebody, if you went to somebody and said, "Hey, would you be interested in a lease to own?" and they said yes, well, the reason they said yes is because they're motivated to do something because they know they got a mess on their hands and they know that they're having a hard time getting a realtor to work with them because the realtor's already told them, "Hey, you fix this place up and we'll list it for you." Most realtors aren't experienced enough to go, "Oh, I don't care if it's not fixed up. I'm going to list it and then I'm going to sell it to a cash buying investor." Most realtors aren't in that frame of mind. So they're not going to even list it because they know that a mortgage company would come along and the underwriters would say, "No, that's a mess. We would never, ever take that thing on because it looks like crap and it would never qualify for a loan." Uh, so the person is trying to do something, and if you said, "Would you consider lease to own?" they'd probably say yes, and that would get us in conversation with them. So just go ahead and stick with the lease to own. And then when I start talking and finding out that the place is a mess, and I start seeing pictures of the inside, because they will show me pictures, and they're going to have to show me pictures of the outside and the inside themselves first, just so I can see they're really motivated before I waste time sending somebody over to their house. Let's say it's in Northern California. Well, I'm going to have to pay somebody, possibly, unless I've got, one of our associates up there working to go look at that house and take pictures. I would never do that. I would say, "Hey, look, give me some pictures of the inside and the outside." They're going to try and show me the best they got. And if the best they got looks like, it's a horror story, then it's even worse than what they're showing me for two reasons. One, they're not going to show me the worst. And two, pictures of houses always look better than the house does in person when you're standing right there looking at it. So I can already see from the pictures that it's never going to be a lease to own. It's going to be a fix and flip. So it will turn into a fix and flip all by itself without you even worrying about it. If you see that it says fix up, then that's fine too. Just go ahead and say, "Hey, would you consider a lease to own or yeah, we would consider, a fix and flip, whatever." Just get them to say yes to something so I can start talking with them. I don't care, what it how you approach them, whatever it takes, as long as it's legal, ethical, you're not, driving people crazy. Um, the main thing is to get them to say, well, I would consider it. They don't have to flat out say yes, because probably nobody's going to say that. They'll say, well, I might, or I might consider it, or I don't know, or what are your terms? If it's anything other than no, then get them back in touch with me. That's a lead per week. I will work with them and see if we can get it to the next step. But we do want you to go through and do those three comparables of what's the house selling for, what's the asking price. Go to Craigslist, go to RealQuest, go to the different things that we've got on there to come up with, some value so that we can see that it's, of interest to me and that there is a possibility. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So good, good. That kind of answer the question?
Yes, and also, which search criteria in my approach can we apply that strategy on? Do the vacant properties or absentee owners or
Yeah, absentee orders. And here's the deal. We went through and talked a lot about his video. What I didn't do was play it for a half hour, 45 minutes, because I'm going to leave that to you guys to go back and watch that video 10 times if you have to really get what he's talking about, because that's going to help you understand what you're looking for and searching for and trying to help, bring these leads in. Sure, eventually you'll get to the point where you're going to actually be making these offers to people, but not right now. It's too early. If you can't be successful at finding a lead and bringing it in, it's going to be even more successful at trying to structure deals. So the first thing you have to prove to yourself and to me and to anybody else is that you can find those leads and bring them in, because that's the most important. If we can't be doing that, then there's nowhere else to go. There's nothing we can work with. So REI Pro has all the different ways of getting leads for all the different types of deals that are out there. And this particular one you'll see in the video was absentee owner, flagged on out of state, flagged on loan to value 10 to 30, and those are going to produce the most results of people who will say yes on something like this lease to own. And then I will follow up with, okay, so let's get into the details and I'll go through all the rest of the things that are in that video about structuring those offers and seeing which one they're most likely going to take. And then I'll have you help me look for buyers. We'll do some marketing on that. And you'll be looking for buyers just like you look for sellers, a little bit differently, but you will. And if you were to bring me a buyer and a seller, well, then you get, twice. You'd get 1,000 for finding the buyer, 1,000 for finding the seller, and then you get 10% of each. So now your 4,000 on $1 million place could go to 8,000. That sound
hmm,
good?
sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. So the main thing is to not be discouraged and give up altogether, because I know you guys got school, you got a million other things. Everybody out there has a million other things. I'm only blessed to do this full time because I'm 68 years old and I've been doing it for 40 years, and I did my 25 or 30 years working for everybody else in the world and did this part time while I was doing all that, and have enough now from having done that to afford me to be able to do this full time. And when I say full time, I'm not really doing it full time, especially the wholesaling. I'm spending most of my time still dealing with the rental properties that I've created, of which I've got to get rid of the low end and keep going up, to higher, better properties and have fewer, more expensive rentals. I was in that mode before. I went the other direction. Now I'm coming back to that mode now that I've seen the reality of the other direction. It's more maintenance and hassle than it's worth. It's kind of like comparing a single family home to, say, a 100-unit apartment complex. People say, well, if you have so many people under one roof, it makes a lot more, money and a lot higher return on investment than a single family home. That might be true. Probably is true. I'm sure it is true. But the same thing goes for a single family home compared to a single family home. A more expensive single family home is going to generate way more than a less expensive. So you could have 10 $10,000 homes and one $1 million home, basically bringing in the same amount of income every month. But the $10,000 homes are going to cost you 10 times the maintenance of $1 million home because you've only got one to maintain. You see the difference? And that's what I failed to realize when I said, oh, I'm going to go out there and do a whole bunch of those low end things. Up front, the math makes sense. Down the line, the reality comes in and goes, well, here's the reality: the vacancy factor, the turnover, the in and out, the just all I can say is if you're going to do it in a rental market where there has an opportunity to appreciate if you can, because that's where the real value and money comes in over time. And people say, well, yeah, I have to wait 30 years. Well, in the meantime, while you're waiting for 30 years on those rental properties, get out there and start doing some wholesaling so you can make money immediately, if that's what you want to do, you know? So some people might just love doing something else completely different. They might want to be an artist. Well, let's go take some of that money from being an artist and sink it into compounding interest in an insurance annuity and make a lot of money 30 years down the road on that. A lot of ways to invest. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, Abraham, I want to thank you very much for being here today and going through this and giving me some inspiration because anybody's energy level is going to be higher when they're working with somebody than when they're in here doing this all by themselves. I could do this all by myself, but it'd probably be more like, okay, and the next thing is, it just helps to have somebody like you there helping to build the energy. It's kind of like the mastermind thing. One person can think so much, but when you get two people, it's not like double, it's like quadruple because somehow the minds affect each other in a way that makes it more than 2 plus 2 or 1 plus 1 is 2. It's like 1 plus 1 is 3 or 4. It does the same thing for
Mm.
energy when you're working with people. So thank you very much for being here. And let's continue on. Just get back to me during the week and let's just, keep building up on what we're doing.
All right. So how do we get the contact info on properties on REI Pro?
Remember that link I sent you that showed you in REI Pro how to find the phone numbers of the different people? That is one way.
Yeah.
That's one way. And I'm going to go back to Podio and come up with some other ways that might not have shown up in REI Pro. I need to go back and look at that myself. And I need to see, is there anything in REI Pro that isn't in Podio? Or is there anything in Podio that isn't in REI Pro? And if there is, then I can say, hey, here's the difference between the two, and here's some other things you might not have thought about because it wasn't mentioned in REI Pro. So we'll work on that. You just keep asking me, I'll keep looking and come up with more help for you in that area.
All right. And also REI Pro doesn't really
I'm sorry, kind of cut out there.
apply property owners. Only Ben Verified does that.
Well, Ben Verified can do that, but let me work with you a little bit more before you start spending money on Ben Verified because number one, let's have you not spend money as much as possible. And number two, let's push the envelope and figure out and get real clear because, I can put links inside of Podio, even back to things in REI Pro and say, hey, here's what they failed to mention. Here's what they did mention. Here's all the different options. So let's spend some time on it this week and build that up.
I kind of missed. That looks like my little sounds kind of being glitchy. What you said about Ben Verified again? I kind of
Well,
missed that.
yeah, I would just hold off on been verified unless you and I work on making more avenues for finding. I'll clean up that stuff in Podio so that we have more options for you to find people's phone numbers.
REI Pro only gives us a phone number, so do I just call them?
You can do that too if you want. I mean, if it's a phone number, the first thing I do is try texting them and see if text works because people, when you call them up, they're like, "Well, what are you calling me for? Who are you? What? What? What?" They get really upset. But if they have a text, they get to kind of think about it a little bit and decide whether or not they want to talk to you, as opposed to being upset. That makes sense?
I see.
Yeah, because people always feel like, oh, here we go with those telemarketers on the phone, trying to get something out of me. They're less upset when they see it in a text because it's not so intrusive. And if we can, put a lot more of that out there and find a few people who are interested, then great. And remember, everything on Craigslist, they've already got a phone number or an email address. We don't have to look for it. They're already there.
Uh,
So don't forget that we've got Craigslist to work with as well.
Okay,
Okay.
that, that sounds good.
Okay. So you and I, one of the things we'll do is look for more avenues for getting, phone numbers and email addresses, especially from REI Pro, since we already know it's already there with Craigslist. So that's what I'll be working on for you guys during this next week. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Abraham. You have a great day. Stay cool in this hot weather, and we'll be back in touch.
Sure, and also, have you looked into the new Lease to Own script I
I'll be
created?
Yeah, I'll be looking at that too, and we'll see how we can update what we've got there on Podio.
Alrighty.
Oh,
Yes, also, is the last REI meeting being recorded on YouTube?
I've got some of it coming up already, and I should have the rest of that last meeting up before the week is up, or before. Let's see, what do we before the end of next week. I'll have it all up there.
All right, sounds good, Dan.
Okay, great. Thank you, Abraham. You have a great day, and we'll talk with you during the week.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, take care.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay, we're gonna wrap this up. Let's come back over here and shut down our recording.